Gamer here, Tito. What we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little tutorial on the Navball and how to affect your orbit while in space. I don't really feel like putting the ship up there right now, so I am just going to cheat. You probably shouldn't cheat, but whatever. Alright, we're in orbit. I wish every launch was that easy. So you're going to have 6 basic markers on your Navball that you're going to be working with. As you already know, you have your prograde marker and you have your retrograde marker. Prograde marker is the direction of travel. So right now, we are moving around Kerbin in a completely circular orbit, in a counterclockwise direction. If we want to raise our orbit, we want to burn prograde. So as we burn prograde, you can see our apoapsis is starting to come up. It is impacting your orbit exactly opposite from where you are. So since we were at the periapsis, it is affecting directly our apoapsis. If you burn halfway between, it's going to be extending over in this direction. Always try to burn from the periapsis or the apoapsis depending on what you're trying to do. So let's go over to the apoapsis. We will once again burn prograde, and we're going to recircularize our orbit to a 200,000 meter orbit. Give or take. Okay, so if we want to bring our apoapsis down, we will go to our periapsis. We will point retrograde. And then we're going to burn. You can see our periapsis starts to come down. And if you want to come home, the quickest way to come home is to go to your apoapsis and burn retrograde, but don't burn until you're going straight down. Get yourself well within the atmosphere. 40,000 meters a good spot. 30,000 is a little bit steep for my liking. That will get you home. We don't want to come home quite yet, so we're going to burn prograde at our apoapsis to raise our periapsis up out of the atmosphere. Next two, normal and anti-normal. These are going to tilt your orbit around Kerbin. It's relative to where you do it from. So if we burn normal, think of normal basically as up, anti-normal as down. If we burn normal, we're going to start to tilt our orbit in the up direction, in the direction we're already traveling. It's not quite right, but it's easy enough to remember that way. Again, we will go anti-normal, bring ourselves back to more or less a decent orbit. This is useful when trying to get to other planets that don't have orbits that match up with Kerbin's, or when trying to get to Minmus, because that orbit, let's zoom out on the map here, you can see Minmus over here. It's not 100% flat and in line. It's more efficient to just launch what it is in line with you, but you can also just match orbits with it first and then go. Next, you have radial in and radial out. This is what you mistakenly used to try to get home. You thought it would be more efficient. You thought, oh, I'm pointing straight down at the planet. So you were facing radial in. You're like, yeah, that's going back home. Well, no. It's easier to see if we have not a circular orbit. So let's get ourselves a nice elliptical, ugly orbit here. So I'm just going to burn prograde, get myself a elliptical orbit. Speed up time a little bit. Alright. So we'll go halfway between apoapsis and periapsis. It's just easiest to see and has the biggest noticeable effect here. Think of these as your left and your right. You're going to be pulling the orbit to the left or pulling your orbit to the right. So let's try a radial out, see what that does. You can see we are currently pushing our orbit to the right. Do a radial in. push it to the left. This will allow you to take an elliptical orbit and circularize it without affecting the total amount of distance you are from a body. This is useful for when you're trying to intercept ships that are already in orbit. If you perhaps left the Kerbal up in orbit and you're trying to get to them, that's a useful tool to be able to just sync up with them and go rescue them. Rest of these you can pretty much ignore until you get to the point where you need them. Target, anti-target, and if you set a maneuver node, you can tell it to just go ahead and point at the maneuver node you set. So let's say we wanted to burn far and do crazy stuff. It's going to tell us, hey, this is exactly where you need to burn to perform that maneuver. That's pretty much it. Main things to remember from this: when you want to get home, go to your apoapsis, burn retrograde. It's the most efficient way of getting home. All right, that should be it. Looks like a little over 5 minutes. Hopefully your attention span can keep you here for the whole thing. This is Tito signing out.